the reason I want to bring you on first is I want to talk about a bit about Longford College. And I did a course there recently myself in a master's over the last 2 years. But before I did that master's, I didn't really know anything about Longford College. And I found you on LinkedIn, and I think it was your name yourself, and then obviously I seen a lot you were involved with Longford College. But what before I get into Longford College, what fascinated me the most was the amount of qualifications you had on your CV. I was going, oh my God, is this lad studied forever? So I'd like maybe to start with where did you start from yourself, and then we'll get a little bit more into where we came from into the college. So like you've got degrees and masters and MBAs and everything. How did that come about?
Oh, okay. Well, I had always an interest in astronomy, astrophysics. That was, and it still is my interest. And hopefully that'll be when I have more time on my hands. That's where I'll finish my studies again. So I'll start.
I see the telescope here in the room as well.
Yeah. So I've never lost my interest in that, in physics in general. But I went to Maynooth University. At that time it was called St. Patrick's College. It was still a pontifical university at the time. But I went there, did physics and maths degree, and I really wanted to stay in astrophysics if I could, but things didn't work out that way. I had to go home because of a family crisis. Both parents were badly injured in a serious car crash, so I had to go home down to the west of Ireland, down to Achill, where I stayed almost 4 years until I got back on the feet.
In Achill?
In Achill, yeah. And during that time, I was asked to teach in the local secondary schools. So that was handy because no more than 10 or 15 minutes drive away. So I mean, to go in the morning, come back in the evening. And I taught in Achill and Bermullet, and then 2 years in Westport when they were a bit better off. So once they were back on their feet, I decided that I didn't really like teaching secondary school. Not for any other reason except that I didn't find it that challenging, you know. And besides which, I had always this desire to go out and do something,
Something big.
Something outside education. And my philosophy was, and still is, that I'd rather die wondering what if.
Yeah, great philosophy, I like that.
Than even if I was to die broke.
Yeah. I think most people that have that in their mindset,
I couldn't live with wondering.
Yeah. They don't care if they lose everything.
Yeah.
As long as at least they've tried.
And as you wander through your life in business, and the least most important is money.
Yeah.
It's more about making a difference.
Exactly.
So that's really where it happened. And when I walked out of the university with my degree, I swore I'd never read another book for 20 years.
What age were you then?
22, I think.
22.
And I faithfully kept my promise. I didn't read a book.
You didn't read a book since?
No, for many years.
Oh, yeah.
But then, when I went over to England, I used to go over every year as a student to pay my fees through college anyway. So I was well used to working on building sites. And I grew up in Coventry till I was 13. And then I continued that practice as a teacher during the summer because, teaching at the time and now again, personal taxation is ridiculously high, more than 50-60% of the time you're paying taxes.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a particularly well paid teacher, but nonetheless, that kind of got to me,
Yeah.
So I'd have to go to England and work on the building sites, maybe if I wanted to get a car or something. That's the only way that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But 1 year I went over to London, I never came back for like 18 years,
18 years.
18 years. I came back obviously every summer and all that stuff, but in terms of being domiciled in Ireland, it was 18 years before I came back. And I got a job, although I was qualified in physics, I got a job in chemistry, believe it or not. They thought I could do it, and I still don't know, did I do it right? But anyway, it was in the shampoo factory in West London, in a place called Hanwell. And they gave me the title of an industrial chemist, and I thought, this is important. I hate chemistry. I dropped it in first year.
Right.
But anyway, all it was just testing samples, and it was, a trained monkey do it, so I got away with it. But that's not what I wanted to do. And I then got another job then. I stayed in that job 6 months, and I got another job then in West London, near Heathrow Airport, a place called Hounslow, where I worked in a more technical capacity as what they call an applications engineer. And my knowledge of physics allowed me to do process planning and applications for some of their more specialist clients. They were an instrumentation company. And so I was quickly given some very interesting clients like the Atomic Weapons Authority and the Royal Arsenal up in North London. So I very much then got involved in the Ministry of Defence. So here was this Irish fella in the middle, unfortunately, of the IRA bombings in London, and I had a very high security clearance, and that was always very interesting to me.
Very good.
So, if I go to the Atomic Weapons Research Institute, which was down in Hampshire, I would go through 8 or 9 security fences in the back of an Army Land Rover with guns beside me and go right into the very bowels of the Ministry of Defence. And then there'd be a mad scientist or two that would tell me all the official secrets. And I said,
I don't want to know.
I really want to know. So my job then would be to go back to the office then. And
you would have been a high-profile kidnap.
God, yeah. And that I would go back to the office then with the information. You'd put together the instrumentation that they needed, and then send the quote. Then the salespeople would take over. So that was a very interesting job, and I specialised in pharmaceutical industry as well as the weapons industry. But then my career took an unexpected twist. I guess coming from Ireland and having to emigrate and being reasonably well educated compared to those who were working in the company at the time, I was noticed because I worked very hard. I was able to shift large volumes of work through my desk, not because I wanted to do it, it's just what was ingrained in me.
That's what you were comfortable with?
Yeah, it's what I always did, I always worked hard no matter what I did, and I always worked my father always says, no matter what you do, he says, no matter how crap the job you're given, do it the best of your ability. And I always live with that philosophy.
Yeah, I think anybody that has made it has definitely worked hard to get there, unless obviously they were handed it.
Yeah, no matter how menial you think the job is, you should do it to the best of your ability. And I got promoted, and cut a long story short, 13 months after joining the company, I was on the board of directors as the technical director, And I thought, how did this happen? Where did this come from? I wasn't even 25 at the time,
Yeah.
And then it just accelerated after that. I was given more to do, and every time I thought I had enough, I was given more. And every time I thought I hit my capacity, I was given more, and I didn't, so I just kept going. So again, quite a long story short, there was a group of companies, it was quite a large group of companies, and 2 years after that, I ended up being CEO of the entire group. And I probably wasn't, I think it was about 29 or 30 at this stage. In today's money, that would be 600 or 700 million turnover every year. That's the kind of size of the company.
Massive.
So then I decided then, I did that for about 6 years, and I grew the company and profitable and everything else. But as happens, the promised equity that you were given at the beginning never materialized, so I decided, well, I'm doing all the work and you're making all the money.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting with the chairman, and I told him that. And it was just quite simply, dear David, it's been a pleasure.
Time to step away.
Yeah. And of course, all kinds of offers were thrown to me, and they were very tempting. But anyway, I did it. I went out my own then. I started my own businesses then, and then for the next, and since that's what I've been doing.
I see you've been involved with Vernier as well.
Vernier is a company that I've been involved with way back. And my journey with them started as I was their exclusive distributor in the UK, and I became one of the biggest in the world for what I did. But then the time came then to move home to Ireland. My wife, we'd had some tragedy in our lives. We lost our daughter.
Oh, sorry.
Our first daughter died. And then several miscarriages, but then at the last, luckily we had a daughter again, but she almost died during that period, and we figured out, well, it's time maybe to come home, And also my parents were getting old now, and they there was no one to look after them. I had to come back and see could I get them into nursing homes and that kind of stuff. So those are a number of reasons. So we came back, and Vernier says, well, we're thinking of setting up the European headquarters someplace in Europe, and you're as good a choice as any.
Yeah.
And I says, fine. So I was given equity in the company, and it's been, the European headquarters has been operational here in Longford for the last 12 years or more, you know, and looks after all of the European interests of Vernier.
So Vernier, just to explain to people, you pit like science equipment into schools and...
Yeah, it's a company that manufactures, one of the first actually that manufactured digital data logging, if you like, for science experiments. So we'd have 90, 100 sensors that would measure everything from temperature or pH or anything a science teacher would need in the lab, and more, in fact. And that's integrated into our hardware that basically is like an iPad that draws the graph in real time, and apps that go with it. And so we're a company that we manufacture and design everything ourselves, and we write our own software. So we're a completely integrated, vertically integrated company. Be the world's largest of what we do. So we'd have the world's, by a considerable amount, the largest market share in the world. So
and that's still going today?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's very much going today. And next week I'm travelling for 3 weeks, solid, you know, hopping over East and West Europe in the usual round robin that I have to do to see our offices and things like that. So it's still a very successful company, and it's still growing, and it's still leading in terms of innovation and that kind of thing.
And going back to, you know, when I mentioned all the degrees and studies, where did you get back in from? Okay, so you stopped at 22.
So I people ask me how many degrees I've got, and sometimes I've got to stop and think, and I give a different answer every time.
I know, I remember asking you, where did you get the time to do this?
And I forget. I think it's something like 13 of them or something.
13?
14, something like that, yeah.
Because I, obviously, that last master's I done was my second master's. I actually left school early. Yeah. Did 0 exams, didn't even do my junior cert. Yeah. And I didn't really, obviously, I got into the fitness around when I was 20. And I started reading, obviously, more fitness stuff. And it wasn't really till, to be honest, it was about 29 that got really stuck into it. And obviously I have 2 master's degrees now, I did a postgrad. But they took a lot of time and a lot of energy. Well, and as I say, like, hats off to you for...
Yeah, well, so the reason I do it, you don't realise just how much time you have on your hands. You know?
Yeah, I suppose what kids, you do with your time.
Yeah, my kids are grown up now. And what really made me think about this, I knew I needed to do an MBA. I needed to have some formal business education. Okay, so when you're an entrepreneur and you run businesses, you think that you know everything. You know,
yeah.
What can an academic teach me? They can, in fact, they can. That, you know, what I found the value of the MBA was that I found that you hear different perspectives, but interestingly enough, the theory behind the practice that you've been doing anyway begins to make you think differently.
You understand more.
And also the case studies of other companies, how they did it, and you can borrow from that. You know, but. On the education front, the MBA was the first degree I did before I hit this kind of mad cycle of collecting degrees. Sometimes I would do 3 degrees at once. You know?
I thought I was bad doing 2.
Yeah. And it's not as difficult as you think, really. You get good at it after a while. And I'd avoid ones that needed a physical written exam, although some of them did, simply because it took time. I had to go to a venue and sit down and do an exam. That just to me was a waste of time, you know, and it's influenced how I've taken the college really in terms of written exams too. So not to go too much went, but my journey took me through business, innovation, data mining or data analytics, law, education, a few more business things. That's really where I've zigzagged through, you know.
And looking at that, obviously, that's where the Longford College came about. I see, like, because you run, I have a lot written down here, like, obviously you've got the MBAs, you've got executive MBAs, business law, you've got agriculture, you have bachelor's degrees, and then there's another section of that which sort of separates is like sports science, so sports physiology, sports psychology, and advanced sports performance, musculoskeletal degree, master's degree. So where did the idea? I know I was listening there at the graduation just last week that that had only started through COVID. Can you explain a bit more?
Okay, so the college started in a very odd way. It was something that I had in my mind for some years, and I felt that education was neglecting a lot of people. And the first cohort that I thought, we have to help unmarried mothers. They fall pregnant young, and maybe the boyfriend or the husband or whatever doesn't stand up to his obligations. So you have this young, vulnerable girl who is looking after a baby for 3 years. Why can't she get a degree?
True.
And come out the other end with something, So I thought that's something that we need to. And I thought about how to do that, and I wasn't really getting very far. But at a chance meeting with an old friend of mine in London, the year before COVID kicked in, he was an ex-Manchester United footballer.
And you're a Man United fan?
Yeah, that's how I know him. And he played in the Cantona era, so he would have played in the teams before the class of '92 kicked in. So, in fact, Gary Neville took his spot at right back. But we stayed friends, and we always kept in contact. And of course, through him, then I'd be introduced whenever we meet up in Manchester to other players. So I started to get to know quite a few of the Manchester United team, and then the hierarchy from the top down, So he said, "Look, we need to do something for players who are leaving the game. The statistics are frightening. If you take a look at it, something like, and I might get these numbers wrong, but the quantum is about right. 60% of all footballers will end up being divorced in 2 years, 18 months, 2 years. A similar proportion will end up as alcoholics, mental health issues, gambling issues. And I think, and I may have this wrong, but I think it's not too far off the mark, that there's something like 100 ex-Premier League footballers in prison at the moment.
Yeah, and definitely and you think that's the lack of education?
Well, if you look at it this way, they're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
There are lots of big names that are going to head that way, and I would say Paul Pogba could be one of them,
Yeah.
He surrounds himself with an entourage that really are not, and it was recent in the news where there was all kinds of threats against him.
Yeah.
And in his football has suffered, there's no question about it. He was one that, could potentially be one of the best midfielders in the world, But it's all gone against him simply because he's allowed it to. And a lot of the reason is, and I know an awful lot of Premier League footballers now, from all over the teams, and some of them you feel like just catching them and shaking them by the collar. Listen, guy, you need to be careful here because you're spending
the fame and the money.
Yeah, I mean they wait for the paycheck and they're off buying a Ferrari, and they wait for the next paycheck and they're off buying some ridiculous pair of shoes or something, and a watch and then something else and then something else and something else. I don't know what percentage of them have actually got their head screwed on, There's not enough of them.
Yeah, I see here, like obviously, as you can see in the camera, you have a lot of jerseys in here. You've got Klinsmann jersey signed, and
we have.
You have obviously looking through the portfolio of who's come through the college.
Yeah,
you actually have already got a lot of say ex-players, managers, male, female, and that have went through a lot of your courses. You have a football management course there as well.
We do two kind of football management courses. I suppose 3 if you count the diploma in sports law. But we do an MBA in football business and we do an MBA for sports agents or football agents.
Yeah.
So we kind of look at that marketplace. We're revamping those courses completely now to make them a bit more fit for purpose. But we are focused on the football industry. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And every year we get a cohort of players, ex-players. And we're delighted to see there's a lot of female players coming through. We have, at the moment, girls from Man United, from Brighton, from Inter Milan, from... I forget half of them, but it's and it's interesting sometimes. I'm watching the Brighton against Man United game recently. It was 2-2, fantastic, entertaining game. And I says, Kudachefo.
He's on my course.
We've got half the players on that picture are students, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to see at that level, you know, because I think for a player especially in the Premiership or even Championship and even League of Ireland highest level, you know, their full concentration at a young age is about all they want to do is play football. Like, they don't really think about studying. They don't want to study. And I've actually spoken to a couple that were actually on my own course and had finished, and like obviously it's the best thing they'll ever do, you know, because it does open doors. Because you know they're going to go, as you say, a lot of them are going to go a different area. If the education only opens up one door for them, that could be enough to save their life down the line.
It gives them confidence. Gives them a lot of things. And I've heard, you know, things come back from players in different respects. Like a lot of Spanish players are very family orientated, and their cousins and whatever. Their brothers or sisters expect them to put money into business ventures that they want to start, and they think the money is easy got. And now these guys,
at least they're educated in it.
They can sit back and say, "Well, show me the business plan," and they're able to tell them why that business won't work without falling out with them.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
There's things like that, and also Jürgen Klinsmann is the best example I can give you of somebody who's done everything and won everything.
Yeah.
World Cup.
What does he need? Why does he need to study?
What does he need, you know? And COVID was the reason he did the degree. He'd finished getting his helicopter license. So he said, what else do I do? And I was friendly at the time. And that's how I got to know Jürgen, was that we both knew a sports journalist. I think it was Sky Sports now. The time he was with, who was it? Reuters. He was the football journalist at Reuters. And we're kind of friendly with him, and both of us from two different angles. And Mike Phelan, too, next-Man United.
Mike Phelan's done the course as well, didn't he?
No. He keeps saying he wants to do the MBA, needs to do the MBA. Then he realises he's too busy, he can't do it. And then every year he'll come back and say, I need to do the MBA. And I said, do it. Oh, I'm not too busy. But Jürgen Klinsmann was a very interesting guy. One of his all-time ambitions was to get a degree. Okay, so, and I said, well, why don't you do it then? You know, well, why not? And now his son is on the MBA course.
Very good.
Too, Jonathan, who plays for LA Galaxy, he's a goalkeeper at LA Galaxy. But they've all come on for different reasons. Aspilicueta was probably one of the most model students we had, and Peter Cech, for example.
Peter Cech, I seen was on.
Now doing his PhD with us. Yeah. You know, and making big difference in how the Champions League may go forward.
Yeah.
So for a small little college that's not even 3 years old, that can make that kind of difference, makes me think, what the hell, you know, the power of education is obvious now.
It is, most definitely. And I think everybody, you know, when I left school, I had no interest in school. I just wanted to get out working. But as the years went on, like I said, I'd like to do this and like to do it. That's why I started studying, obviously studying the stuff that I like, that I got into sports, exercise, fitness. And obviously it's good to get back in there. Now, I know we talked a lot about all the Premiership players and, you know, English league players, but you obviously for the GPA as well, they're like,
do a lot for the GA.
There's a lot of GPA, like I'm looking at the price of a course for some of the students, and like it's easy access for them to get in.
What we do, again, it's a part of our philosophy of making education accessible and affordable. The GPA gives a 50% scholarship to them, and we match it with 50%. So what happens is you get a GPA player that does an MBA for 1,700.
1,700, yeah, it's amazing. Because like if any GPA or GA players out there listening, that like most definitely I'd be looking at the courses thinking, you know, is there something that I have an interest in? Is there something I can jump on? Because as I said, I did one myself, and it's been absolutely fantastic with Adrian Lamb. And like obviously, you know, Adrian had been in the Premiership arena like over 25 years, and like his knowledge and experience is phenomenal. Yeah. And the way the courts are broken down, you know, it goes through every structure. So I can easily walk into a team. Now, I had always a good idea anyway, but I can easily walk into a team now, no matter what level it is. If somebody give me a job in the Premiership, I could easily say, right, I need to do A, B, C, D before I move on. And it just makes it more simplified and easier to work. So, like as I say, these courses are open to everybody. And obviously, as I say, you've got the executive MBAs, you've got the health management. So there is other areas rather than just the sport.
Yeah, so we have a very innovative approach to business education that I see now has been copied a wee bit across Europe. But
Right.
we started off saying, well, you can do the track, a 2-year executive MBA. You can then specialize in year 2 if you want. Be a football agent, be a health professional, be into sports business, whatever the specialization is. And then after year 2, you can take your MBA and go, or you can continue on to your DBA, which is a Doctorate of Business Administration. So a 4-year program gets you the MBA and the DBA.
That's excellent.
And the reason we do that is because we make sure that the thesis that they do for MBA is expandable, so they can build on it for the DBA. That's why they can get through the whole thing very, very quickly. And we have a lot of them on that. We have 14 successful DBA completions in this college, which is quite extraordinary for only 3 years.
For such a small space of time. And like everything, obviously, the majority of the stuff is done online at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment it is done online, and that's simply because of how we started and the niche market that we address. But there are plans quite soon to open a physical campus here in Longford.
In Longford itself.
Yeah. So we will still maintain our online presence, but we will have the physical face-to-face as well.
Okay, have you a timeline for that?
We hope within the next 2 years.
Very good. And any future things for yourself or the Longford College?
Well, I recently resigned as president.
I've seen that last.
On Friday, I decided it was time to hand it over to somebody else, well-deserving. Professor Tony Birch would be from not day one, but minute one, and I felt that it was his turn to do it. Because of the conflicts of governance that exists between a CEO of a corporation and a president of a college, I can't hold both roles.
Okay.
Because the needs of the college sometimes can conflict with the needs of a corporation, Now, we will have a foundation here. It will be non-for-profit, that will be for sure, but still, it'll be my obligation to generate profits to go back into the college to fund the scholarships and so on. So the decisions Tony takes on behalf of the students sometime may not align with what the corporate decision needs to be. So that's why we have to have this division of roles.
Yeah.
And Tony is free then to make the decisions that's best for the college and best for the students. Yeah, well, right. My job is to build the organisation at the back end to make acquisitions if we need to do that of other colleges around the world, to establish partnerships like we do at the moment with Shakhtar Donetsk, who we're starting to develop a very close partnership with them. And when the time is right in Ukraine, we'll invest in Ukraine and help bring Ukraine back again,
Excellent.
And then we have Wimbledon, another one, and we have Shakhtar. So then we have Quetta Gladiators, which is one of the biggest cricket teams in Pakistan as well. From the informal ones, we have Chelsea, Man United, and Leeds United, and all those others. We have formalised agreements with these football clubs and cricket clubs and whatever else comes our way.
Just to provide the education.
Provide joint education with them. Kind of a dual branded type approach, and a lot of these clubs see the relevance and the importance of it.
It's definitely important to...
I think the football club, and indeed we have a lot of people from UEFA studying with us, and one in particular is very interested in how the football club can be the centre of a community and put back some social capital there, like tokenise, if you like, the community in terms of what it can do, be a centrum or a nexus for not only football, but for people to come in, and maybe elderly people who are lonely and things like that, exercise for them, education from them, whatever. And they're there, these football clubs, and they should be utilised that way. And we buy into that too.
Yeah.
That's our philosophy as well. So we're working with UEFA and other organisations to try and make that a reality. That'll take some time. But,
Like a college for Longford built would be massive for the area.
It's a college for the community, and our vision of the university, and we do want to be a university. We'll apply to become a private university. Whether or not that'll be possible in Ireland, I don't know. But we will do it somewhere, and use the name here if we have to. But I hope it'll be an Irish university. But my view of the university is simple. The university should be the engine of an economy, a local economy. It shouldn't be a sink for funds to just go into it, where people with fancy titles are in these big glass towers and think that they are God's gift to the world. Yeah. No ego. Egos, you leave your ego at the door. You know, you're here. I
used to have that sign above my gym: "Leave your ego at the door."
Yeah, we're here to make a difference. And the difference we want to make, especially locally, definitely locally. That's our first objective is to make sure that the local area of Longford can really benefit from what we have. You know, and the university will be a university. It'll have medical school. It'll have dentistry. It'll have agriculture. It'll have veterinary. It'll have everything that we're able to build into it. Everything.
Brilliant. Last question. You are from Longford?
No.
Originally?
No.
Where are you from?
I'm from Achill Island.
Achill Island, okay. So, why Longford? I have two questions for you now.
Rather young lady, I have to say.
Oh, say you found a young lady from Longford.
Found a young lady from Longford in London.
I met her the last day, actually. Fabulous lady, full of energy.
Marie, and she's from Lanesborough, actually. And that is, as they say, that really, isn't it? That's how it happened. And when we came back to live in Ireland, I wanted to live in Westport, which is beautiful though it is a little bit far from here. And given that I used to spend so much time in the air,
so easy access to the airport
and stuff, and will again. I'm heading back now after that.
You won't leave Longford now? I
think Longford is handy because it's an hour and 15 minutes. I know exactly from leaving my house in the morning to parking up and walking through security. I know exactly how long it takes me.
So I have one more question.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're heavily involved with the teams in England. The players are coming in. And then we have Longford Town Football Club.
Be very interested to do something. And we would be prepared to put significant investment into Longford Town. No question about that.
Yeah, because they have a fantastic facility here. It's very central Ireland.
There's no reason why that couldn't be.
There's no reason why it can build up. So, do you think there'll be a link there down the line?
I would love that to be a link down the line. It's not for me to say, is it? Really? But
not really, but
from my point of view, if anyone's listening, I would love to have a conversation.
So hopefully there's somebody listening there who might be able to come and talk to you, because that would be a massive link. Yeah. You know, I spent a couple of years up in Sligo Rovers there. I'm actually going back next year. And, you know, they had a link with the ATU up there, and so we're getting in doing testing. We had use of their students, which is massive for a football club to have extra bodies and help.
Well, part of our remit and part of what the vision I set the college for is very much humanitarian. So we would be looking to develop sporting talent from all over the world, to bring them to Longford, to have them study and learn in Longford, but also have the opportunity to play professionally if it's football or anything else. So it would be a massive benefit to the club.
Very good.
If we could get together, and although I've not made any noises that direction, and I know nobody.
This is the start. This is the start of it.
Yeah, I know nobody there, but we would definitely be very sympathetic to any needs that they have.
Vincent, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm looking forward to see what Longford College brings down the line and Longford Town. So thanks very much.
Thank you.